gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Yeah. 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 What's up? What's up? What is good, everybody? This is the May 10th, 2020 episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I am your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source on social media and the quote unquote show enough of the Boxing Source blog on theboxingsource.net. You can follow us on Facebook, look us up at the Boxing Source. You can also go on Twitter at Boxing Source 2. You can follow us on Instagram through the Boxing Source. And yes, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel by looking up the Boxing Source and subscribing. Number to dial in to get in live is 347-237-5539. Once again, 347-237-5539. Press the 1 key to get on queue and you'll be able to talk live on the show. We're going to, go through a good little bit in this particular episode because last week I did specify that today would be a special day for the Boxing Source. Around this time in 2015, we had the first full episode of this show. It was a full week after you had the fight in Las Vegas between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. And yes, I was there for that particular fight in 2015 and did a sample podcast the day after over at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. Yes, I did test it out there. But by the time everything had cleared up and all the hoopla had died down a little bit, I started to do this particular podcast every Sunday at this time. Of course, there's a couple of times when, I kind of, took the weekend off or whatever it is. And a specific contributor to the Boxing Source movement had been a little bit disturbed about that, but he knows and he understands that the host has his, how would you say, weaknesses when it comes to certain things. So that is why I have missed a couple of shows here and there. But like I said, here we are around 2020, May 2020, and this is basically a celebration. So my thing is that I am kind of thankful for being around for this amount of time, and what I want to do is kind of play something in reference to all of that. Let's see if we can run it. Yeah, that's right. 5 years in the game. 5 years in the game. Talking boxing. Yeah, buddy. That's what it is, man. It's been 5 years in the game. 5 years of doing podcasts, and it has been, it's branched out. Have been writing articles, boxing articles for some time, a little bit before that. But starting off this podcast is really, opened up a lot of things for me when it comes to the sport of boxing. Because of that, I had been branching out to cover various events, mainly around the East Coast. So me being an independent columnist, so to speak, has opened me up to doing various things as far as like the game goes, and went to many fights within the New York, DC area. Some within the Las Vegas area, and also like the last event that I covered was the Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas event at the Star in Frisco. Would have been the event with Shakur Stevenson over in the theater at Madison Square Garden, but we know what happened from Friday, March 13th up until now. So hopefully we get things back and going when it comes to these live events with the sport of boxing, and I'll be there and available to cover all of that. But for the time being, we're here, talking about what's going on within this sport of boxing currently. I will, at one point revisit the past year that we've had on the Boxing Source, where we covered specific events, and we've had a few moments surrounding these events, specifically the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr., and also the rematch between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. We'll see if we can revisit both of those here in this particular podcast. But we do have a special guest scheduled for 8 p.m. Eastern Time as the NABO Super Middleweight Champion will be scheduled to come on to this particular show. So, be on the lookout for that. But also, we'll go through a few news and notes that's, out there in the boxing world. Like, for example, a possibility that there could be live boxing action over in New Zealand featuring the former WBO heavyweight champion, Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker is, slated to try to get himself back into the hunt for a world title. But there, also, is a couple of things that he has to do. Joseph Parker was part of that fight card over at the Star in Frisco, going up against Shondell Winters, and getting that stoppage victory there. I think that he is on a slow path to get himself in contention for a world title. But for me, I just think that um, him having this potential bout, which is against Lucas Brown over in New Zealand, actually. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Lucas Brown, had the what was that, the WBA regular championship, and then after he won it, it got stripped. Then he had his fight against Dylan White, where he got, knocked spark out, um, and since then he really hasn't really done that much. So potential bout between Joseph Parker and Lucas Brown is one thing to kind of consider. There was some talk about Joseph Parker potentially fighting Junior Fa, who is a kind of like a regional rival of Joseph Parker, but they said that Junior Fa kind of like asked for a little bit more money than they were willing to dish out. So as far as that fight is concerned, then that's like out of the cards. It said that also with the manager of Joseph Parker, who is you know Higgins, that Davis Higgins, that if you can't get Lucas Brown, then maybe they could get Dempsey McKean from Queensland. But they'll see how they'll be able to, pull that off. They say that the local government there in New Zealand has, restriction on their limiting, live events to not having no more than 100 people. So if that's still the case around August and they want to, try to pull that off, then you'll see how they'll be able to, get those things done. The other thing is like it looks like they're going forward with the pay-per-view bout with Gervonta Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. And this is Tank Davis, who has, won the title over at super featherweight. It has the WBA regular title at lightweight right now. He did, have his fight over in Atlanta at the end of last year against Yuriorkis Gamboa, and ended up getting a stoppage victory there. Going up against Leo Santa Cruz, who is a former featherweight champion, moved up to super featherweight to get a belt over at super featherweight. And this bout has been talked about happening for months now, as they're trying to get Gervonta Tank Davis to be a pay-per-view attraction there for Showtime. Looks like Leonard Ellaby and Floyd Mayweather and Stephen Espinoza have plans for the Baltimore native there, and they said that they're locking down that fight between him and Leo Santa Cruz. Now, I mean, for me, I am still in doubt that Gervonta Davis can make 130 pounds. I mean, this is somebody in Tank Davis that did have the thing where in this particular bout that he had, where he was the part of the undercard for Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor. And in that particular fight, oh man, I mean, he came in there, he was, overweight, and that was, something where he could have had that, what was that, the IBF Super Featherweight Championship. and then he was there overweight for that particular fight. That actual fight wasn't really a pleasing fight for many. So kind of like left a bad taste in a good amount of people's mouths. But after that, he's had a string of KO victories against Jesus Cuellar, Hugo Ruiz, Ricardo Nunez. That was a hometown fight for Tank Davis, and then against Yuriorkis Gamboa in Atlanta. And that particular fight in Atlanta was, to me, a fairly successful event for Tank Davis. And so they're kind of like trying to build off of that momentum. They looked like they were planning to have this particular fight between Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz over in the Los Angeles area. We'll have to see if that is, going to be their actual plan for that. For me, I think that would kind of work in a sense for Tank Davis. Having a fight against Leo Santa Cruz, who, is a fighter that, was based around, California there. And, with him being, based in California, he's going to have a good amount of fans there to support him. And Gervonta Tank Davis would be, kind of out there as the heel, so to speak, in that particular matchup. So that would be interesting to see how that fight turns out. Like I said, with it being at 130 pounds, and it's probably going to have that, that WBA title on the line there. So, like I said, with Leo Santa Cruz being there from Rosemead, he's had a few fights over in the Los Angeles area, like Abner Mares and the Staples Center, Rafael Rivera at Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, and Chris Avalos at the SubHub Center. So that kind of fight, I think, would be good to have over in the Los Angeles area to see if that will go down. As like I said, it will be the first pay-per-view fight for Gervonta Tank Davis to basically be featured as the headliner for that. Leonard Ellerbe did say that Tank Davis won't have any problems making 130 pounds there. And he says that Tank understands the seriousness of being a professional, and he has a very good understanding of that. And he's really excited about fighting Santa Cruz. So it says that like Leo, not Leo Santa Cruz, but Leonard Ellerbe says that, with Tank being a young guy and him, staying disciplined, then he'll be able to make 130 pounds. So we'll see how that's going to work out. As they said that they're going to make it a Showtime pay-per-view event, and I guess that, with it being a Showtime pay-per-view event, they're going to, make it to the point where they're going to have fans in the stands for this. I did say that it could be around the Los Angeles area. How the state of California handles live events is up in the air. So for me, I kind of feel that if they do try to pull this off in Los Angeles, you might see a limited crowd there by the time that they do this, whether it's like in October or November or something like that. You may still have a limited crowd there. So it kind of like depends on how they do live sporting events, because with California, you have the football teams there, you have the Rams, there. You have the Chargers there. You have, of course, the basketball teams: Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Warriors. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to handle live sporting events there. Yeah, you have the Dodgers, Giants, the Angels too, baseball. So and when it comes to that, as far as like particularly basketball, with it being an um, indoor spectator sport, that may control how they go about doing this particular bout. I think that if they're going to have Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz over in Los Angeles, they're going to see how things work with the Lakers, the Clippers, and how they handle the audience there for those games first before going forward with having this particular fight at the like say the Staples Center or something like that. So that's how that's going to kind of like work out. Um, for those listening in live, you can call in at 347-237-5539. Once again, that's 347 237-5539. Press the 1 key to get on queue, and you'll be able to talk live on the show. We want to see if there is anyone that is on YouTube. You can catch this on YouTube live as well. And if you want to participate on YouTube, you could go in the chat on YouTube. And then there's also a link through YouTube to see if you would like to be able to join live that way. So right now, I got like about another few minutes or so before our special guest comes on. So want to man, I don't even know if I want to do it. Oh boy, this is from Friday, man, and I know that we had like a live sporting event that was on the ESPN family of networks yesterday. That's through UFC, and it seems like that particular event has kind of triggered a few people within the sport of boxing. But you also had this thing with Oscar De La Hoya. Well, he did kind of give a little bit of props to Dana White for kind of like hosting an event for UFC. But then they did have a back and forth in reference to Oscar De La Hoya potentially saying that he would fight Conor McGregor. He did have an interview through CBS Sports, and I think he said like, "Hey, yeah, 2 rounds mean oh, come on, brother, 2 rounds. One thing about me is I went for the kill always. Look, Conor McGregor, I love him in the octagon. I respect him. I watch him all the time. But the boxing ring is a whole different story, And it said that he had a little back and forth with Dana White, as Dana White, kind of like taunted Oscar De La Hoya a little bit in reference to a potential fight between Oscar and Conor McGregor. And then Oscar, said back to him like, "Hey man, you're such a little bitch. Never lace a glove other than being a box aerobics teacher." He said, "Fertitta Brothers are the ones who built the business, and you were lucky enough just to have 10% of UFC, little bitch." Oh no. Oh man. And he said that in reference to the thing with him and Conor McGregor, he said that he didn't really openly challenge Conor McGregor. They just, brought up a question as a potential fight between, Oscar De La Hoya and Conor McGregor. And he just said, straight, flat out that um, that he just felt like he would take out Conor McGregor in 2 rounds. And, it's kind of, funny that, we still have this thing with Conor McGregor and that he is, still one of the biggest marketing fighters in combat sports. Probably like currently as an active fighter, the most lucrative fighter in combat sports right now. So when you have guys like Oscar De La Hoya or even still Paulie Malignaggi talking about fighting Conor McGregor in the boxing ring, is because they know that having someone like Conor out there selling a fight and having a fan base that fight with Conor McGregor would be a financially successful type of fight. I mean, we've seen what happened when he did fight Floyd Mayweather, as you have somebody in Conor McGregor who a lot of people like in UFC or mixed martial arts, and you have Floyd Mayweather, the most successful fighter in the sport when it comes to money and pay-per-view buys. And even though it really wasn't that much of a fight, you still had a lot of people buy that pay-per-view. So there you have Conor McGregor as still one of the most marketable guys in sports. So whether it's Oscar De La Hoya or Paulie Malignaggi or anybody around the boxing game that will want something or want that smoke with Conor McGregor, they know that the money is behind Conor McGregor. And if they're out there and they want to fight him, then that's basically, what you would get is someone that would kind of bring in the money for that potential fight to happen there. So, that's what we got in reference to that particular topic. I wanted to see like what else was out there that we're kind of like looking ahead to. I did talk about the whole thing with Mike Tyson's last time, so won't really revisit that. The whole thing with Floyd Mayweather. Him as far as like a potential comeback, he's like, yeah, nah, he really, don't have to do it, that much. There's not really much interest for that. He did, he is kind of like staying in shape, so to speak. So he's kind of like getting himself out there for that. But as far as like him returning to the ring, that's kind of like out of the cards for him. So not really, going to venture into that all too tough. Real quick, got calling in from the 813 area code on with us. Welcome to the 5th anniversary of the Boxing Source Radio Show. What's good? Yo, just chilling, man.
Just finally got a chance to call in, man. I just made it though.
Oh man, so
You
you,
on there ready?
huh?
You still on? Or you gone?
Nah, he hasn't got in yet. I told him to call in a couple minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna let you know this call, all right?
All right, that'll work. That'll work.
All right.
So, yeah, I was gonna talk about the whole thing there with Floyd. I've talked a little bit of reference to him being a trainer of sorts. So he's kind of like, I think he's kind of like focusing on that right now at this particular juncture. With that, he doesn't feel like there is that much of an interest for him to return to the ring. Even though he's, had those videos out where he's looking like he's, training to a certain extent. But other than that, he's kind of good where he's at this particular point. So, with that being said, um, he's like, let me just, be me. Like he's talking about, you know, being very happy with the way that his career went. And you're still going to have, guys out there calling out Floyd Mayweather. They were talking about the whole thing between him and Errol Spence Jr. You're always going to have, the potential matchups or fantasy fights between like the likes of a Errol Spence or a Terrence Crawford or Keith Thurman or whatever it is. They did kind of like try to throw out a little bit of a tease of a rematch between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, but that's not necessarily going to happen on some stuff there. So that's the thing on that. But right now, we have our special guest that's pretty much on the line. Here he is, from Omaha, Nebraska, with a record of 16-0, and he is currently the NABO Super Middleweight Champion. That is so cold, not too cold, but so cold. Steven Nelson, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you
doing? Doing good there, brother Steven. Doing good. Yeah, 13 knockouts, man. 13 knockouts. Yeah, gotta add that in there, man. So, how you been doing here in this little period of quarantine?
Oh, so I just been staying busy with a lot of handyman work and lawn care and everything. So I stay busy doing it.
Oh, I feel you. I feel you. I've heard that you are very talented with that the landscaping and lawn care and among other things. So we'll be visiting that at some point here in the show. But going into your pro career, you did have your latest fight over at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, where you face
Yes.
Sam Killick, and you were able to, beat him down and get the stoppage in the 8th round. So go through that particular fight for a little bit.
Well, going to that fight, a lot of the boxing analysts had him beat me, and even on the betting odds, they had him up on the betting odds. So I like challenges like that though, because it makes me go in there and give it my all.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm watching them, I just already knew. I'm like, man, I can beat this dude. Like I ain't, I wasn't too worried about it because I knew what I'm capable of, even if other people don't see it. And for my prior fight, like I have the mindset where if the job requires a screwdriver, why pull out my hammer?
Right.
I don't have to show everybody everything I can do, every time I fight. So it's a lot that people haven't seen and still haven't seen thus far with the boxing.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you didn't have to pull out a hammer when you could, have a flathead or a flathead screwdriver or something, or Phillips screwdriver to pull out on them. And, you were able to showcase your skills there against Killer. And, you were able to, kind of like time him early in the fight and get him with, good uppercuts early. And then once you started to work on the body, that's when, he started to break down a little bit. And Buddy McGirt said, like, yeah, and Buddy McGirt said, yo, that's enough, man. That's enough. And he stopped the fight.
Because it was like, I was whitewashing him. It's like he wasn't doing that. He wasn't answering to nothing. And the crazy part is I was just doing the same thing. Like, because I have in my head, like, if one thing is working, I'm gonna keep trying it until you figure it out. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop doing it until you figure it out. And you adjust to it. I'm not gonna change what I'm doing. So when it's crazy. Going into the fight was to box him and move. But right before I'm warming up, and one of my coaches was like, "Hey, Steven, I was watching him again, and I feel like you can catch him with the uppercut or the uppercut to the body, like uppercut to the chin, uppercut to the body." I was like, yeah, okay, got you. Yeah, I just was doing what the coach told me to do.
Yep. Now,
and it was working, and the guy didn't adjust to it. So, that was his fault, and I prevailed with it.
Yep. Now, at that particular time, I had like caught the tail end of that fight, to where you did get that stoppage victory. But revisiting it, I seen that you were there. Even though at times you were like right in front of him, you were still like moving your head and giving him different looks so that once he did like start an initial punch, you weren't there in front of him, but you were there to kind of like respond with those counters. And then after, like I said, timing him, because he was right there in front of you, then you could do more of your, punches there before, he got seriously hurt. And you ended up, getting a stoppage there. So, being
and that part was the game plan, was to, stand in front of him and not just standing there, like
right.
Keep my head on the swivel. And because I seen that he was flat footed, and everybody that he beat some other guys that were undefeated, good fighters. But because he was fighting this fight, he was just standing there and trying to fight him in the pocket. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hit him and move.
Yep. Now, yeah, with Killick there, they were saying that he had been in the gym with like a lot of notable fighters, over the course of the past few years, like Miguel Cotto among others. But you were still able to use your skill in order to, get the best of them in that particular fight and end up winning that NABO super middleweight championship. So, with that kind of like puts you in position to try to get, a bigger fight later on down the line. And, you being in that super middleweight division, there's a good amount of fighters that are out there right now that are trying to compete to be at the top of that particular division there. So, you have like the, currently like the WBO champion there is Billy Joe Saunders. You have Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, David Benavidez, Daniel Jacobs, and maybe, Canelo Alvarez there at 168. So there's a good amount of fighters out there in that particular weight class. And I did have an interview with another guy that is campaigning at super middleweight by the name of Willie Monroe Jr. So that's a good fairly deep class there in that super middleweight division. Is there like anybody that you're kind of like aiming to fight in the near future, or like say 6 to 8 months down the line?
I mean, honestly, I don't even pay attention to like the people and worry about this who I want to fight, because I go in there and I have a team behind me, and I trust them to put me in the right places at the right time with the right opponent. And at the end of the day, anything can happen, so I don't focus on this on anything in the future. I just focus on the task at hand. So right now, I'm just trying to get back into a fight, no matter who, you know, I'm not too big on calling out people because, like, I feel like that's reaching. Like, I don't reach for that type of attention. But I'm up to fight, anybody because I know what I'm capable of, and I know that I can fight the best of the best and beat them.
Now, you being a product of Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, I know about the former undisputed super lightweight, now current WBO welterweight champion Terrence Crawford, being from Omaha, Nebraska, and you being affiliated with him, and like y'all have the same trainer there, Bomac. So kind of like going to being another product of Omaha, Nebraska, and competing there and being among the top guys, at least within the super middleweight division. So how does it feel like being a product of Omaha and being up there with the likes of Terrence Crawford?
It's just like having a blueprint, like you have somebody, and I've been around since before he was a champion, and I grew up with him and everything. So seeing where he's come from, and see where he's at now, I know that it's not too far fetched. So it keeps me working hard and looking forward to get to the same place. And you know what you got to do because he's with me, I'm with him. Training every day.
Yeah.
And we push each other. So, like I say, it's a blueprint right in front of me. And all I do is follow it.
Gotcha. Now, I know that in the last fight that you had there against Kelly, they kind of, hinted at a story that you had there with Terrence Crawford, where he kind of like saw you over at a gas station or something like that. And there was like a little thing that was going down or about to go down.
Oh yeah, he had my back. Like I said, we grew up together, and he knew who I was. It was after like a club outing, and we went out, and some guys who I had a problem with, they wanted to fight me, and I'm like, I ain't gonna back down from no fight, especially calling me out for all my people, And Bud was like, well, shoot, I'll go over there with you if it get hectic, I got your back.
Yeah.
And we got a big fight, and it was like, man, I can't even count, man. It was me and him, and it was like 15 of them. And all I remember is see a dude drop it, dude. And this is before I started boxing. This was when I was 17. I didn't start boxing until I was 21.
Man. So then, I mean, you had that, encounter, and it kind of like was like you just said, like you were like, you weren't necessarily in the boxing at that particular point, but you knew that you were able to hold your own against a good amount of people. They're like, yo,
yeah,
this like 2 against 15, yo.
Right. I've always been a street fighter. I've always been a fighter, like my whole life. It's always like that. I had uncles that, when I come home crying about somebody bullying me or somebody picking on me, they had me go out there and fight them. And ever since then, it's just been, I just always never back down from a fight, no matter what, because of what I learned from them.
Let me see if I think you got 813. 813, you still on there with us, Gary?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? What's going on? I just checked the middle.
Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah, I just checked the hotel. What's going on, Steve? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? I can't complain, man. Just been to Orlando. Literally just pull up at the hotel. I got one quick question for you. I know for a fact a lot of people looking straight at the underdog, you know, in boxing. That's happened to a lot of people. What do you think, or who do you think that you would have to fight in order for So Cole to get the respect that he deserves? I would have to fight with the champions, whether it be Benavidez, Caleb Plant, one of the guys from overseas. Canelo, I feel like that's a super fight that I'll have to build up to. I probably wouldn't get that right now, but those other champions right now, like, I feel like that's very, very much an arm's reach. Okay. I think Caleb would be a good fight. I would actually buy ringside. I would buy ringside for the I'm familiar with him. We were on we both were Olympic training partners back in 2012 and everything. So he cool too, but at the end of the day, this is business, you know. Like I get there, anybody. I get there, I go in there all the time and swallow my best friend, my brother, Terrence. And they come out and we shake hands and it's like another day in the office. So, you know, I get there with any of those guys. I promise to see you fight, and this year is a good year for me. I could actually take a next fight. I'll be there, and hopefully James will be there too. I'll make sure that you come along with me. But man, it's been a pleasure. As you know, it's been a pleasure for me on the outside watching you grow from Army to now, and a select few guys I can talk to outside the ring. And my family, as you always know, and I'm not ashamed to say it, have always supported you in and out the ring, and we would never stop supporting you. Very few people that is genuine. The same person, no matter what and where you see him, he'll always talk to you, and that's something I appreciate as a person. You know? Yeah, I was going to say, man, I appreciate you, your support. Yeah, man. Hey, James, I got to go, fellas. I just got here, and I got a meeting to run to already.
All right, got you, man.
It's a pleasure as always. All right, man. Good talking to you.
All right, brother Steven, I wanted to, kind of like get into this thing here, like when you were in the amateurs, starting around like 2013, you did get, that 2013 Golden Gloves championship, and then later on down the line, another, what is that, Police Athletic League championship in 2014. So, like, kind of go into your amateur career a little bit before I add another caller in.
Yeah, I started boxing in 2010, and by 2012, I was an Olympic training partner. I went to the Olympic reloads, as they call them, and I went there and I got a silver medal. I lost in the finals. It was a close match. I mean, a lot of people felt like I won against Marcus Brown. I've been with him, and I lost by a couple points. But went from there, came back from London, and I won the USA Nationals. I won every national tournament that we have in the U.S. I won the USA Nationals, the National PAL Championship, the National Golden Glove. I won the World Ringside World Championship. Then I also won WSB qualifying tournament to put us on the international team. And I was on the international team, and I fought in the WSB 2014, 2015.
Yes,
and I went pro 2016, March of 2016. Yeah. And I think my record was around, 70 and like 10 or 11 or something like that. It's hard to keep track of the amateur record, but somewhere around there.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta go out to some certain site that would have every single, fight recorded on there for the amateurs there. But I'm gonna see if I could.
And even then, like I see that it's not really accurate all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have every single fight that you had on there. There's some of the national fights and some of the big fights that you have in the amateurs that were recorded or put down into the system. But it's a lot of fights. Like you have smokers, a lot of fights in different tournaments that they don't record.
Right, true. Now, I have another caller in here from the 267 area code. You're on with the Boxing Source, and Steven Nelson. What's going on?
What's good? You know, part of representing YSM Sports Media. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? What's good, man? I came and talked to the illest nigga in Nebraska, man. That's you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know y'all remember that.
Yes, sir. It was a movie.
That's Belly, right?
Paid
Yeah.
for. Yeah, Belly.
No,
That's Belly. Yeah. Yeah, everybody bring it up. It's like, yeah.
All right. You coming off of a 3-way knockout streak, right? Last opponent, I couldn't even pronounce the dude's name, so I'm not going to butcher it here.
Chili, but
yeah, he was undefeated. Now, 16-0, 13 knockouts. Who do you want next? Like, what's the next step up in the super middleweight division that's not a title fight?
the next step would be, it will probably have to be like a fighter who's either been a champion or they fought a championship fight, in order to earn the respect. Now, okay, he's ready for a title because I just get done fighting a guy who was up and coming, undefeated champion. So now he is step up and fight somebody who's been a champion now.
Hey, JR, I would like to see him against either Yuzgatigi, the Mule, or maybe Willie Monroe.
Hey, I did mention Willie Monroe because, like I said, I did have him on the show. It was a few weeks back. So I don't know, man. But Scottigui would be a good little matchup too. Yeah.
Yeah, John Ryder. That's a good fight. I would favor you in all the fights, but yeah, John Ryder. That's a good fight too.
Yeah, John Ryder.
What you think of that? Do you think that he beat Callum Smith?
That fight, I didn't get to watch it, but I've heard different stories about it. So I couldn't say.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he put something more in Callum Smith.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, really? I gotta go back and watch that fight. Now you got the interest to go back and watch it.
Yeah. Ryder felt that he kind of got that fight, and now he's kind of, out there trying to, call out a few people. He did call out Daniel Jacobs recently. So that would be a very interesting little matchup there. One thing I do ask my guests when they come on is, like me, I'm a avid book reader. So I asked my guests, what is their favorite book that they've read or a book that they're currently reading right now?
Oh, are you talking to me or the?
Yes, to you.
It's an entrepreneurial book. I've had it. I've got the name of it because I'm currently in school right now. Business entrepreneurship. So I'm trying to read these books similar to what I'm learning in school.
Gotcha. Now that actually is a cool thing that you mentioned that because I've heard that you kind of delve into clothing design. So could you go into that a little bit?
You say
Yeah, like clothing design, like art, like you do art as well.
Well, I'm just really good with my hands. I'm very artistic. And like for my fights, I make my own uniforms. And most of the things that I know how to do is because somebody else did it and they didn't do it as good as I would want them to do it. Or I see somebody do something, I was like, oh, that's dope. I want to do that. And I just go pick it up and teach myself how to do it. So after my first boxing match, I paid the guy from Colorado. Never forget his name. His name was Eloy Perez, and he makes uniforms for people, for fighters.
I think I know of that guy.
But he kind of had a bad name. He kind of had a bad name because he would take on too much work and then screw a lot of fighters out of not having the uniforms for the fight. So my first fight, I went pro March. I hit him up January because I knew him in person because I live in Colorado, so I see him at fights and stuff. And I hit him up and told him what I wanted. He's like, all right, $500. All right, gave him the money. Long story short, he got down to the day of my fight, and he was taking me around all this time. And then the day of the fight, I get a package in the mail. It's a little package. Open it up. It's a pair of shorts. Like, are you fucking serious? And after that, I was like, you know what? I'll make my own uniforms now. I'm gonna go figure it out. And I went and made my own uniforms. The next, and every fight I come out as a different character. So after that fight, I was like, you know what? I'm about to just have fun with this. And I came out as Blade. I just Blade, made some black and silver shorts. I had the sword on my back, all that, the glasses, everything, The haircut came out. And since then, I was like, everybody caught on to it. Like, oh man, this is dope. This is things on uniforms, like different characters, and everybody like grew up watching or watch and stuff like that. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, true that.
And I'm a painter. I paint portraits. I cut hair. I've done tattoos. All that. Yeah. A mechanic, carpentry. Baby, I do it. The only thing I can't do is sing. Somebody asked me to sing a national anthem. I'm like, nah, I can't do that. But anything else, I'm gonna do it.
Yo, you feel like people got Omaha fucked up because I've been out there. People think that it's like this hick town, but yeah, like I had that impression going on. I visited Creighton University, and I'm out there like, yo, this ain't what I thought.
Exactly, I tell you all the time, man. Omaha, it's not what people think. It's like the cornfield, nobody out here in hick town, but it's really a big city.
Oh, yeah.
We got all kind of stuff out there. And there ain't no beaches or nothing like that, but everything else, like you can live anywhere else.
True. All right, got another caller in here from the 813 area code. You're on the Boxing Source with Steven Nelson. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? Mr. Nelson, just want to say big up to yourself. Just real quick about your resume on Boxing Break. I think you're sitting at 16-0, 13 tables.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So I'm definitely read more about you. Want to hear what you got to say in your experience within the sport of boxing. It's always fascinating to hear from the perspective of an active fighter. On this, look for fights, climb your way to the top, looking for those opportunities. The politics of boxing, getting in shape off season, which everyone's off season right now. But just once again, glad that you're a part of the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I like to stay in shape. We got access to our own gym, so even though this quarantine, everything closed down, I go to the gym every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like trying to, stay in shape during the quarantine or whatever it is, may seem to be kind of difficult for some people. But if you just have the right, facilities, or you have the access to those facilities, then it's not, much of a problem out there. I felt that was the thing where you're talking about the story about you designing your own, outfits. That was kind of good right there. I think, what was it, the last one that you had, where you were like in green or something like that against
Yeah,
Kelly?
I came out of the grid because I originally was playing on Terrace Undercard, New York.
Yeah.
It was December 17th.
Yeah.
I can't believe the exact day. But I was supposed to fight on his card, but one of my other teammates, Robert Brandt, he got injured. His fight was January 11th, and he was the co-main event, and he got injured. And my coach, Brian McIntyre, was like, "Hey, Rob is out, so instead of just giving this spot to somebody random, I'm gonna shoot you to them. Are you down for it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, put me in that place." And he hit him up, and that night they called him back like, "Yeah, we put Steve there, and he can televised and everything."
Mm-hmm.
So I still stayed with the same uniform, which was a Grinch, because I was supposed to do it before Christmas. I was like, you know what? 22 weeks after Christmas, we'll still do it. And I came out as a Grinch.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Yeah, all right. I see that you went on out there with that one, man. I'm going to see if I can add another caller in here from the 323 area code. I think he is a little bit familiar with you here. 323, you're on the Boxing Source with Steven Nelson.
What's up? JR, Steve Nelson, Charles Intelligent Boxing. How y'all doing?
I'm doing good, y'all.
Just finished celebrating Mother's Day with my mother. So just calling in, so I missed whatever you guys talked about at the beginning. But I'm hoping Steve is doing well, and I want to see him in the ring.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to getting there. Put on the show for everyone.
Where do you think? And excuse me if you've already answered the question, but where do you think your next fight will be?
I think my next fight, I don't know where they will be at, but they gave us they told us that we will probably start back competing in July, but it'll be closed circuit, so there'll be no audience, but they'll be televised. So that'd be good. Yeah, because I know everybody's itching. Everybody's itching to see some kind of sports. I've seen guys watching water polo the other day, watching soccer, and they just trying to find anything to watch. Darts, it don't matter. They want to see people compete in something.
Yeah, I was told Top Rank was going to have some shows in Vegas. So that's what I was told.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Vegas all to go to. I love. Matter of fact, it just reminded me. I did hear that we would be competing in Vegas, and they said that we would have to go to Vegas 3 weeks prior to the fights, so we can get test for the COVID-19, and then we'll be there for the 3 weeks, like quarantine and stuff, and this training. They make sure that everybody's clean, everybody's straight. That's at the venue. Which I good.
Your friend. That's a good idea. I wanted to ask you a question in reference to the perception of boxing these days, because boxing has gone through a lot of different changes with the way fans see it, and social media and influences a lot of people. So, in my opinion, Terrence Crawford, who I believe is a friend of yours, is the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. But it doesn't seem as though the other welterweight belt holders want to fight him. What's your opinion when a fighter of the caliber of Terrence Crawford cannot get fights? Do you put the blame on him, his promoter, or his potential opponents?
It's not him or the promoter to make these matches, but it seems like PBC, they're like own little fraternity. They're like, we're not letting nobody in unless we want them in, and they're holding those titles because they could potentially lose them to Terrence, and then now it's out of the PBC control. Now this title is over here on Top Rank side versus it's 3 over there now, and then we have 1 on Top Rank, but if Terrence go fight one of the guys they have on PBC, now it's another title out of his stable.
Yeah. So how does that make you feel as a competitor, though? Okay. How does that make you feel as a competitor, though? Because, I can't imagine someone as talented as Errol Spence Jr., someone as legendary as Manny Pacquiao. Well, I do know Pacquiao because Freddie Roach told me personally he didn't want to put Pacquiao in the ring with Terrence. But someone like Errol Spence Jr., someone as seemingly as confident as Keith Thurman was prior to last year, maybe. I don't understand how guys, 28, 29 years old, prime of their career, how could they not just tell Al Heyman or whomever they need to tell, get me in the ring. I want the biggest fight. I want the biggest payday. I want the most glory. Explain how that happens now in this day and age, because it wasn't happening, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. I think it's a business move, a smart business move that they're trying to do, where they're trying to, like on this PBC side, he's trying to build a super champ. He's trying to fight his guys, fight his guys. Like, okay, fight within our household, and let's find out who's the best in our household. Bam. And then let him fight Terrence or whoever has the title outside of PBC, because if he fight now, then it'd be too much mixed up. It's too soon. It's too soon to say, okay, let's look the best of the best fight right now. Boom. Instead of building it up and build a super champ on his side and then fighting whoever. That's what
the last I'll say on that, I respect that. I don't want to harp on that, but the last I'll say on that is, but they're not acknowledging that Terrence Crawford is on that level. So they don't even say he's on that level. So that's why it doesn't really make sense to me. You listen to PBC people talk, they don't get anybody. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's kind of
let's make him feel like he ain't nothing. It make him frustrated. It make him it come for us. It's one of those things to me. Because, even when you watch, the PBC fights, they will name every champion except Terrence. Terrence is a WBO champion. They have a list up and have all other fighters that have belts. But then, just forget that he has a WBO. It's is that because is there some type of contract or something where they can't say WBO on their network, or is it some kind of drama thing?
Yeah, they kind of have some little mess going on with that, with the WBO or something like that.
They acknowledged it when Andy Ruiz had it. Right, we can't say that excuse.
That leads you right there when it's a big drama show. You're trying to frustrate them and trying to, do little petty things to pick at him,
Yeah.
Well, not acknowledging, he ain't nothing.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's kind of like where they try to build that PBC brand, because, Spence and Crawford have talked back and forth for a lot. And, one other person that I've had on here that you're familiar with, Steven Nelson, is the WBO super featherweight champion, Jamel Herring. And he's told me multiple times that, both of those guys, really want to, get it on with each other. And so, so it's they're trying to build up that fight to where it's the biggest fight possible. And I know that, Bob Arum is well, that guy, Errol Spence Jr. is just wasting his time fighting those other guys. He needs to go up there and fight Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is the most talented fighter at 147. So it's this whole little mess that's going on, and right now with Errol Spence, he has that one belt left to get against Manny Pacquiao, and then if he gets that, then yeah, they'll have the fight between Spence and Crawford. But for the time being, I just found it interesting that when the other guys had the belts, they wouldn't fight Terrence Crawford, but now that they don't have a belt, they are interested in fighting Terrence Crawford. So that's kind of a little thing there about what's going on.
I think Al Heyman's advisor is telling him, no, let's hold on. Let's hold on. I got y'all. Because when you hear the conversation between Terrence and Errol Spence, Terrence and what's the guy Errol Spence fought? Sean Porter fight. Sean Porter. You hear the conversation, they like, yeah, we want to fight, but you know what I mean? It's more like a silent agreement type deal where it's all in control of Al Heyman.
Yeah. Yep. So, brother,
how do you guys feel about the fighter heavyweight?
That's a perfect example right there. How people talk about this street thing, like, oh, it's the other side of the street, but then you see other weight classes, they're mixing top rank and PBC fighters.
Yeah.
Like the heavyweight, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. That's top rank in PBC.
Yep.
So that's how the street stuff is a big bit. And the same thing with Terrence. Terrence fought two other PBC guys. He fought Diaz and he fought Molina.
Yep.
Those guys are PBC. So they go where they want to over there.
Yep.
So for certain ones, then they start talking about, well, other side of the street, clear the side of the street first. Like, dude, there ain't no such thing on the side of the street in boxing.
Right. All right. Now, before Charles may have something else for you, I want to add in another caller. This caller is the self-proclaimed president of the Deontay Wilder fan club, Mr. Matthew Brown. What's going on?
Forget you too, JR. Y'all 5 years. 5 years for doing it. You didn't have one good thing to say about Deontay Wilder. 5 years, brother. Not one good thing. How does it feel to be the biggest Deontay Wilder hater on the planet?
It's a hard thing to wear on my shoulders. It's about 40 pounds heavy, but I still wear it.
That you are talking to is the biggest Deontay Wilder hater in the history of mankind. Oh man! I think he's related to Dominic Brazil. And ever since then, this guy's been hanging on.
I was I just really like last fight. I didn't like that.
Well, because he didn't want to say what really happened. He told what really happened. He got punched in the back of the head. All right? That's what happened.
I would have liked him to take that. Use that excuse other than, my walkout uniform is too heavy, man. I'm like, that, like, this took it. And I was like, damn. Man.
Well,
I made this post.
I mean, inspirational post about him. And I look up to him, he turn around to that, dog.
But don't worry, your king is here, and he'll be back.
He'll be back. I was hurt.
Oh man.
I was on fight too, what you guys talking about today?
Just well, I ran through a few things. Hey, Charles, since I got you on here, could you go into a little bit with like your title, so to speak, as you are affiliated with a certain person?
We're gonna make some announcements. So I'd rather not, JR. Let's just talk a little boxing. We're gonna make some announcements soon.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're doing something.
Okay. I'll just put it on the. I'll put it on the back burner for the time being. Brother Matt, do you have a question for Stephen Nelson?
Can I ask you a question?
All right.
Of course. Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing? You on the East Coast? You in New York? Of course.
Wait, hold on a second.
I don't know whose phone that is. Well, I hope everybody's safe over there where you have Matthews, because I'm in LA doing my thing. So I've been going around. I did a poll asking people who the most overrated boxer is, and Triple G. They either said they don't know, or they said your boy. Like I literally Wilder is overrated. I can't get anybody to say anybody but Deontay Wilder. They're like, this dude, he has no skills. He avoided 8 out of the top 10 heavyweights for the last 8 years. Finally, they put him in with the out of shape type of Fury. He gets exposed. He really lost, but they gave it a draw. Comes back to fight Fury when he's in shape, loses every minute of every round.
No, wait a minute. He said that he got hit in the back of the head.
One last thing. He's going to be the first, and Steve, correct me if this is not true. He's going to be the first fighter in history where his corner threw in the towel and they're asking for an immediate rematch. That's never happened in the history of boxing, where the corner threw in the towel and then they said, we want an immediate rematch. It's never happened. I'm just laying it out for you, Matthew. Please.
Let me ask you a simple philosophical question, right? If the consensus on Deontay Wilder is that he can't box, he's not any good, this is the consensus on Deontay Wilder. Because it's all I hear from guys like you and people of their ilk. Then how can someone who everyone has a low opinion of be overrated? That makes no sense.
I don't have a low opinion of him. I actually want to watch him fight at the Home Depot, formerly Step Up Center, now called Dignity Sports, or whatever, in Carson, California, trying to get investors in him. They watched him and they said, why the hell you have me watching this clown fight? That was about 7 years ago. So Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder has been protecting. He's been protected as a champion and before becoming. It's not. I wanted to see him fight Dylan White. I wanted to see him fight Joseph Parker. I don't know fight. I wanted to see him fight
Deontay Wilder.
Joseph Parker had Deontay Wilder. Alabama. He was there when Deontay Wilder and his brother Dominic Brazil. Joseph Parker was there. He flew all the way to Alabama to fight with Deontay Wilder.
And when he saw what happened, he wasn't no fuck with Deontay Wilder after that.
What are you talking about? He always was wanting to fight one.
No, please.
No,
that's
no.
Not what they
Hey.
That's not what they think.
Deontay Wilder. Regardless, if you think all those guys didn't want to fight him, then I mean, if that's what you want to believe, There's a lot of guys who named this. So I guess you would think Ruiz never wanted to fight Deontay Wilder, right?
Who knows what Ruiz wants to do? Ruiz needs to get himself in shape. Okay, that's what Ruiz needs to do.
Hey, don't worry about that. Eddie Reynoso will get him right. Hey.
I mean, look. I hope he comes back and does well. He will. My money is saying that he won't. So we can always make it interesting if you want, but
we can make it.
I mean.
Oh no! Don't do it! Don't! No! Please! Don't! No!
I already said it. All you got to do is not winning another fight in the next 18 months. What? I don't care who he gets in the ring. I don't care who he gets in the ring with. Will not win another fight in the next 18 months. I don't care who he fights. He will not win in the next 18 months. And by that time, I announced his return.
Wow. That's a big damn. Can't say that. Hey, this next fight after a loss, they don't come in there as a tune-up fight. So,
shit, that's what you would think. That's what they should do. Matthew doesn't want him to fight a tune-up. Yeah, Matthew speak. I'm not going to say anything. I want to hear Matthew talk about Deontay Wilder. Talk to me.
So, 5 years of this shit, JR. Why y'all don't see what is happening? Okay, first of all, Dillian White, who claims that he wants to fight Deontay Wilder, we all know that Dillian White has turned down opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to fight for or get in position to fight for a heavyweight title. So all this fight is talk to me. I don't want to hear about Dillian White.
Oh boy.
He's the number one. He's been the number one contender. He's already been the number one WBC contender. What else?
Oh boy.
Well, here, how about his promoter? How about his promoter could have met the demand for the fight?
Oh my God.
Okay, yeah.
What does he got to do? What does he got to do? He got to look like Chris, Ariola.
Chris Ariola.
Deontay Wilder at contest.
Hey, Dillian White is not in better shape than Chris Ariola. I don't know what you talk about. Dillian White has
Chris Ariola got a fight with Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, he did, and he got beat with one arm. He got beat with one arm, didn't he?
Oh boy.
That's how. Listen, man.
Hey.
I ain't going for this shit, JR. No, this is bullshit. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen? Matthew, I want to know, what do you think is going to happen when he fights? You're honest with this fight. He's going to regain his title. I think he's going to regain his title. Okay.
Steven, I'm sorry, but when he did make that comment, I did bust out laughing. So I guess that does prove that I am a Deontay Wilder hater. I got another call right here for the 312 area code. Oh goodness. And 312, you're on Live the Boxing Source, man. Steve Nelson. Yo. 312, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just tuning in just now, man. So I didn't come from the beginning.
Okay, true that. Hey, Steven, man, I want to get back to something here with you. You know, working with Bomac, as like he's been in your corner there for, you know, pretty much from the get-go. Like, how is it working with Bomac?
Oh, man, it's good, man, because Bomac and Saul and Red, those are three-headed monster coach, and we're all like family. Like, I know people say it like because they beat their coaches, but like we're literally like family because we're all from the same area. We all know the same people. We always be around outside of boxing. So it's like having it's like the father-son relationship type boxing team.
Yeah.
Like if you like an uncle or like a father to me, you know, because outside of boxing, you know, he has so much information, so much, it support me in so many other ways.
Yeah, true.
And they're actually fighters. They've like all my coaches. They've been in the ring. They've been in fights. They've been around other fighters. They have a lot of knowledge in the boxing game. So you can't beat it. It's like you can't ask for a better team.
Hey, Steve, can I ask you a question about Bomac?
Yeah, what's up?
When is he going to have his five people, Mr. Terrence Crawford, strike a deal to fight Errol Spence and get that work?
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Really, it's out of the hands of Top Rank. It's out of the hands of Terrence. Out of the hands of Bomac as a manager and a coach. It all lies on PBC and what they want to do.
How does it all out on PBC when Bomac is the manager? The manager is supposed to be the guy that's making the deal to make the fight.
Yeah, but you can't make a deal with a side that don't want to make the deal. You know, a deal is like you shake hands, right? So if you put your hand out there, if you put your hand out there and say, "Hey, let's shake hands on this," they're like, "No, we don't want to, man, no." Then it's like, what do you do? All you need to do is fight who's available.
So you think they don't want to make the deal, or are you carrying the flag for the team?
Yo, no, like literally, like they say, if you just pay attention and watch the interviews and all that stuff, like they literally saying, like it's them, it's lying in their hands. Like PBC is the one who, like, no, like you watch the interview with Errol Spence, he said out of his mouth, why would I go fight and take a chance with Terrence when I got three other guys over here that I can fight? That I didn't fight. I didn't hear. Man, I see you.
Well, I will say this. I went, what was it, back in 2018? Was that 2018? Before Errol Spence fought Mikey Garcia, or 2019. He and Terrence Crawford were basically speaking with each other, and then you had Bob Airman there, and then Spence basically told him like what his plans were going to be. Like he was going to fight, you know, Sean Porter. He was going to fight Keith Thurman. He was going to fight Manny Pacquiao before they even considered Terrence Crawford. So they already had his plan.
No. You think Sean Porter is better than fight you guys or is Terrence Crawford? He said this interview as well. He said in the interview as well. He was like, "Hey, clean your side of the street, and I would clean mine, and then we'll fight." I've been right next to him in the car, and he had Errol Spence on the phone, and he like, "Dude, when you gonna fight, dude?" And they were talking back and forth, joking and shit like that. Like, "Dude, when you gonna fight me?" He like, "Man, I'm a win this title from Pacquiao, and it's right direct." He said, "I'm gonna beat Pacquiao, get the title, and then I'll fight you."
Said, "Well, man, I'm gonna fight Manny Pacquiao, man, and then after that, I'm gonna go after you, man. That's what it's gonna be, man. Strap season." I was just kidding.
Hey, JR, ask the 312 about that.
Yo.
Yeah, 312, you back on.
Hello? Y'all back on? What's your opinion? What's your opinion about Crawford and Spence?
Okay. To the guy that asked Nelson when was Bomac gonna make the fight? Can you hear me, brother? I don't know your name. Yeah. I don't know what is your name? Hold on. This is Steve.
His name is Matthew, but everybody's on there. I'm not from the
Yeah, I was speaking to you though. That's the term I was gonna ask you. Okay. Have you been following Spence for a long time? Yeah. Yeah, right. Yep. When you see Spence in interviews and they ask him who he wants to fight, who did he say he wants to fight?
He said, this is what he said. He said he wants to fight Pacquiao. He wants
Okay, wait. Okay. So why are you asking? Why is Lomax not trying to make a fight with him when you know that Spence wants to fight Pacquiao?
You let me finish. He says he wants to fight Pacquiao. Then he goes to see Terrence Crawford. That's what he said.
No, but he had a specific order. No, but listen, he had a specific order.
We can pull up there.
No. I think he wants to fight Terrence. Oh, wait. So you think he want to fight Terrence Crawford before he fight Dennis Garcia and Manny Pacquiao?
Yo, it don't matter to him. That's what you're not.
Yes, it does matter to him. Come on. It does matter.
In any interview, Errol Spence has not said he want to fight Terrence Crawford. When they asked him, he answered the question. He said, "Yeah, I'll fight whoever," but he never said, "I want to fight Terrence Crawford."
Hey, my brother, you're not keeping it real right now. You know you're not, brother.
Terrence Crawford want to fight Cal Brook. That's what we want to fight. All right.
Okay.
Oh.
So who cares?
Watch any interview from Terrence Crawford, and he always said, "I want to fight Errol Spence. I want to fight Pacquiao." He always names those guys. He always do.
Why not? He's naming guys.
But what does Terrence Crawford wanting to fight Cal Brook? What does that prove? Like you saying that? What does that prove?
Yeah. So
because
fight top guys.
why
Terrence Crawford is trying to fight guys who nobody cares about.
No.
You care about
That's not necessary. Nope.
Terrence wants to fight Pacquiao, Errol Spence, guys with a title. But those guys are available. So what's the name?
Don't tell me Terrence wants to fight Pacquiao when they were under the same umbrella and they didn't make the fight happen. Okay, Bob Adams.
No.
I'm for real. Okay. Okay. Let's go, my brother. Let's keep it 100.
And I'm not afraid to put it out there so people know. And I'm not saying this shit because Terrence is my homie. Because I'm going to keep it 100 regardless. Terrence been wanting to fight Pacquiao. Pacquiao team, this is on interviews too. He's literally saying, "No, I'm not fighting that guy. I'm not going to fight him." No. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you from what I've heard. I'm telling you, like, this is my best friend. I talk to about all this shit all the time. I'm just being 100 with you, like, right here. Right here, the guy.
Yo, Matthew, so who you going to blame? You going to blame is Pacquiao and Spence on the fight?
I'm going to blame Hennessy.
You're going to blame
He's been Hennessy.
Oh, okay. So no blame to the handler. Matthew, you got no blame personal against Terrence Crawford because I interviewed Freddie Roach. Matthew, Freddie Roach told me to my face, I'm not putting Manny in the ring with Terrence. Don't tell me that's my face.
No decisions. You don't hold no weight. That's what you
What are you talking about?
He's no manager. Come on, man.
Managers are the second. Managers are the third decision makers. Like, it's the fighter, the coach, and the manager. All the manager does is just all the business between the fighting team and whoever you want to fight and the promotion team. All the manager does. Manager doesn't
Why didn't Bob Allen meet the minimum guarantee? He know Pacquiao gets
because Bob Allen wanted to lose his money on Pacquiao. That's why he never let Terrence fight him.
Money. So, but listen, here's the thing.
But it's not. But you make it seem like it's Terrence. Like Terrence don't want to fight these guys.
It's not about Terrence. It's about Boback because Boback is the manager. So to me,
Wait a minute.
Boback If you don't got the power, all you need is no manager has the power. That's what you don't understand about boxing. No manager has the power. All manager is a middleman. All they do is handle the business. All they do is handle the business that the fighter don't need to do. He don't need to worry about no contracts, or he don't need to worry about how much he's getting paid. The manager is negotiating that. But the decision is the fighter and the promotion team. That's who all the manager is the relay.
So
I think you just make the relay for your boy.
no, wait a minute, Matt. Wait a minute. Because here's one thing, right? Matt, I have a question for you. Who made the decision for Luis Ortiz not to fight Anthony Joshua? Hold on. No, I have Charles. Hold on, Matt. Hold on, Charles. I have hold on, Charles. Because Matt said that you're talking about the manager making the final decisions for what the fighter, has as far as like their fights are concerned. But if that's the case, then why is it that Jimenez, who is the manager of Luis Ortiz, didn't give the full okay or had that full okay for Ortiz to fight Joshua? Who made that decision? Did Jimenez make that decision?
A blood pressure medication on the form.
What are you talking about? Hey, Jimenez, look,
You know what?
Jimenez knows how to handle an Instagram account, so he knows English. Come on.
Hey, whenever Spencer Danny Garcia get in the ring, after that, that's gonna tell you all you need to know. Whoever Spence faces after that. Because if he don't face Manny Pacquiao or Terrence Crawford, then who he gonna face? He's gonna face either one of them. No, he's not. Okay, so you telling me that after he fights Danny Garcia, he's gonna fight Manny Pacquiao or Terrence Crawford? That's if he fights Danny Garcia first. It depends. He's gonna fight Danny Garcia first. He's going to fight Danny Garcia first. He said it. He said it like now. That's one thing. I'm gonna back up Errol Spence on that. I've heard him not in the interview, not for nobody else. I've heard him on the phone tell Terrence after he fights Pacquiao, he's gonna fight Terrence. He said he's gonna make it happen.
Well,
but how are we sure that Manny Pacquiao is gonna fight Spencer? And I told you this is the situation with COVID. You never know. It depends.
well,
I'm saying if Pacquiao doesn't fight Spence, if Spence is not able to land Pacquiao fight, is he going to say fuck it? I'm just going to go ahead and fight Crawford? Absolutely.
nah.
No, absolutely. No.
Nope.
You lying.
Nope.
Lie. Not true. Because if that's the case, why fight Danny Garcia first? What's the purpose of fighting Danny Garcia? It's mandatory, my man. Okay, Crawford is WBO champion. It's a unification. Hey, man, overdue. Man, how can you be mandatory over another champion? It's a unification.
Hey, 312, let me ask you something. Sean Porter landed a lot of punches on Errol Spence. So you telling me you think Bud Crawford is going to do worse against Errol Spence than Sean Porter did?
No way.
That's the question, Matt.
He's gonna brutalize Terrence Crawford. I'm telling you.
He's gonna brutalize like you did. Sean Porter.
He's gonna beat him up. So,
like you did Sean Porter, right?
To answer your earlier question, who's better between Terrence Crawford and Sean Crawford and Sean Porter? My answer is how about Crawford let his guts hang and fight him so we can find out. How about that?
All right, hey.
No more of this fighting family bullshit. No more of this people each other's teenagers. Get your ass in the ring and settle it.
Hey, it looks like. Hey, look.
Stop acting like Carol Booking already. This is Sean Porter.
everybody on Errol Spence that like rough Errol Spence and beat Terrence. It's always the same. It's always the same thing. Oh, he's bigger than Terrence Crawford. But that means nothing. That means nothing. I walk around with 200 pounds. Better. It's because he's better. No, he's not. Though he's one track. He's one dimensional. Dude. Hey, Matthew. Who has Terrence Crawford? Matthew. That's better than Errol Spence. Man, Matthew. I went to Arlington, Texas, waiting to see Errol Spence knock out Mikey Garcia. And you know what happened? He couldn't knock out Mikey Garcia. He shut him out. He couldn't knock out Mikey Garcia. He shut him out. He couldn't knock out Mikey Garcia. But that's saying he's going to He was trying. How many times did Mikey Garcia get knocked out? How many times has Mikey Garcia won a belt at 147? Hey, when you're going up against the back, ain't no shame in losing to the back.
Hey, hold up. Hey, hold up. Real quick.
If Mikey Garcia would have won the welterweight at 4 he would have won the belt. Oh my God.
Hey, we got 205. We got 205 on live with us right now. Hey, 205, you're on the Boxing Source Radio Show, man. What's good?
Well, motherfuckers saying that Terrence Crawford can actually beat Errol Spence. Where are these guys at? Where we get you from? Crawford Camp. They all of you in Texas. I'm from Alabama. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the vice president of the Deontay Wilder fan club.
When Terrence beat freaking Errol Spence, dude, I just can't wait to see everybody's reaction. And the desires of all of this thing. Like everybody, I'm here. I'm betting the knockout. I guarantee you, everybody's gonna make this excuse. That's why I hate that Errol Spence got in a car wreck, because that's gonna be the excuse when he get beat. That's gonna be the excuse. Oh man, because if he didn't get in a car wreck, he would have beat him. So if he didn't take that time, you can't use that excuse if he beat Danny Garcia. Can I give you my reasons why?
Here's what we're going to hear after Spence beats Crawford. We're going to hear they waited Crawford out and he was too old. Crawford was out of his prime. That's going to be the
crazy part is I know both of them and I've trained with both of them. So it's not because Terrence is my dude or I don't know what Errol Spence can do. I've trained with Errol Spence, but I just know that Terrence Crawford is a different animal. Everything. I know he's a different
real quick.
He's a different animal.
Hey, real quick about Terrence Crawford, right? Back in March when they had the press conference with Shakur Stevenson and all of that, and Terrence Crawford was there with his family and everything, and he had a little confrontation of sorts. I think it was his boy or something like that. And when I see him headbutt the dude, I'm like, yo, Terrence Crawford, one crazy MF, bro. He can be cool, but he crazy. You gotta deal with a dog when you're dealing with Terrence Crawford. I'll just tell you that. You're dealing with a dog with Terrence Crawford.
He got a different level of strength. He got a different level of strength, man. Because I spar with Andre Ward. I spar with Latif Coyote. I was sparring with these big hitters and stuff, and nobody has hit me like Terrence hit me. And that's me been a light heavyweight, super middleweight.
Yo, Steve. Thank you. Because being physical in the clinch and all that shit, Terrence wrestle on these dudes he's a different animal. Can I get my brother? Hey, brother, can I give you my reasons why? Because you said that everybody's reasons are the same.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right. Yeah, what's your reason? Okay, so Terrence Crawford
in the last fight that he fought against Mean Machine, what happened the first five or six rounds in terms of why it was so difficult for him to get to Mean Machine? What happened?
It was never difficult. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I wouldn't say.
Oh my! The dude used the jab against Terrence Crawford. The dude got to the punch before Terrence Crawford because Terrence Crawford was throwing looping shots instead of him throwing straight shots. In the Jose Benavidez fight, what took Terrence Crawford so long to get Jose Benavidez out there is because Jose Benavidez shots were getting to Terrence Crawford's head a lot quicker than Terrence Crawford's faster shots were getting to Jose Benavidez. How many rounds do you think that guys go? How many rounds did Mean Machine and Jose Benavidez win against Terrence Crawford? Mean Machine is debatable. How many rounds? I said
Win.
How many win? I don't remember how to win, but I have to go back and look at my fight breakdown, and I'll answer that later. But so what I'm saying is did we see? So we say. Let me finish. So we say Errol Spence is one of the Mitchell. What the fight showed me with Garcia is that I thought he was one-dimensional first, but he wasn't trying to necessarily knock Mikey Garcia out. He wanted to box and use, the 1-2, mostly the one, and control Mikey Garcia with the one, which lets me know he is sophisticated enough to win a fight with his jab, which is part of the reason. I got to remember exactly what he did in the Sean Porter fight, but I think part of the reason, other than him, every top five welterweight right now would beat Mikey Garcia. You're right. Every top five welterweight right now will be Mikey Garcia. You're right. But what I'm saying is, listen to what I'm saying. So what are you talking about? Is the ailment? I'm only using it to say what's the ailment for Terrence Crawford. Someone hitting Terrence Crawford with straight shots. That means Terrence Crawford has to wait until either they get tired or when he can get to round 5 and then crank up the level. With Errol Spence's shot will probably get to his mark a lot faster because he's going to be throwing straighter shots than Terrence Crawford. Now, if Terrence Crawford is that much faster than Errol Spence, then all of what I'm saying might be mitigated. But the reason it's that much faster is because, which may mean that none of this might not matter. Look at the common denominator. What's the common denominator on all those fights? Let me finish. Terrence Crawford's going to get touched a lot early. Errol Spence ain't a guy that you can take a bunch of shots from and then still be moving like you He-Man in round 6. Why me? Sean Porter just did it. What is this did? So what? Sean Porter was out there. He let it 12 rounds.
Your point don't make no sense, though. Your point don't make no sense because the common denominator is Bud starts off slow in all of his fights. And what's happened? He whitewashed him at the end. He knocks him out. He stops him. He can't do that. Why should you do that? If Sean Porter was a better technical fighter, he would have beat Errol Spence in the later round because Errol Spence is slowing down. Sean Porter was a more technical fighter like Terrence Crawford, he would have beat him. He would have been like that around. If Errol Spence get the heart to step in the ring with Terrence Crawford, I'm betting no Crawford for the knockout.
I say if Spence ever get the heart to get in the ring with Terrence Crawford, I'm betting on Terrence Crawford for the knockout.
This man said Spence gets the heart.
You know how I broke it down. Tell me why you think specifically what Terrence Crawford does that enables him to knock out Errol Spence. What does he do?
Good work. Okay, I can answer that question. Let me answer that question.
All right. And he'll go to Spence's body. He'll go to Spence's body more than anybody ever went to Spence's body. What was the first thing you said? What's the first thing you said? I said he'll go to Spence's body more than anybody had ever been in his body.
Good work.
So what fighter has Spence ever fought and they went to his body, bro? Sean Porter? What fighter has Spence ever fought and they went to his body? What fighter has Sean Porter didn't fucking go to his body? Hold on. You don't need to get all, belligerent.
How many times has Spence been hurt to the body, though? Watch that. How many times has Spence been hurt to the body? I've counted 3 times he's been hurt to the body.
I don't even know about Alabama, so I can't say.
Well,
What's Alabama man's name?
Mike Grady.
JR, his name Mike.
Yeah, you know who Mike Grady is, man.
No. Oh, okay. Nobody saying one-dimensional. Nobody on here.
Yep.
Nobody on here said one-dimensional. He is multi-dimensional. He knows how to space. He knows how to time. He knows how to do a lot of things. He has high-level ring generalship. But with all that said, Terrence Crawford is 2 levels above him with footwork, with timing, with angles. I mean, are you watching these guys fight?
He can fight both ways. This is effective. He can fight southpaw and orthodox the same exact way. Like, I feel like I grew up with, I still don't know what kid he is, if he left or right. Like, you don't know. Let him think he's a designated fighter who that angle look a lot different when they throwing back a punch that they used to throwing at him. It ain't gonna.
Spence doesn't even want to fight him, so it doesn't even matter. I mean, if that's the case, Spence would already be saying, "Give me Terrence Crawford right now." Why would they wait? If he's gonna demolish him, why not do it?
He's trying to wait until he can stack up as much as he can, because his fight gonna be one of his last fights.
Yeah. If Sean Porter hit him that much, how are you gonna say Terrence Crawford's not gonna hit him?
If Edgerton Kabaliopoulos can knock Terrence Crawford down, how can you say that Errol Spence can knock him down?
Sean Porter was spinning Errol Spence. Sean Porter was beating Errol Spence to the punch. I mean, come on, man.
Don't you know Mikey Garcia got knocked down by Martinez, bro? Don't you know Mikey Garcia got knocked down?
Sean Porter even said Terrence Crawford is better.
That's his boy. My brother. Don't you know, boy? My brother. Don't you know Mikey Garcia got knocked down by Mikey Martinez?
At 135?
What's your point? My point is, you're talking about Terrence Crawford got knocked down by Mean Machine. He knocked him down. Right. Mikey Garcia got knocked down at 130. Mikey Martinez. And Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence wasn't even able to knock him down. So what? Because Mikey Garcia was fighting to survive. Mikey Garcia was fighting. So you don't think? Wait. So you don't think Terrence Crawford is at least able to survive against Errol Spence? If Terrence Crawford is not the way Terrence Crawford fights, no. Terrence Crawford is not a fighter who just is in there to like live. Do you know how when Adrian Broner fights people, the reason why people don't knock Adrian Broner out is because Adrian Broner evades the whole goddamn time. The reason why Manny Pacquiao didn't knock him out is because he was evading the whole time, trying to do counter shots. The reason why Sean Porter
that's why Mikey Garcia did not get knocked out by Errol Spence. Mikey Garcia was fighting. Congratulations, but Mikey can't go 12 for butter. So now what?
I think Steve Nelson.
Don't even dream of it, man.
Hey, hold up.
Who has Bud Crawford beat that has anointed him the guy at 147?
Because Danny Garcia's resume at 140 is so much better, heads and heels better than
Damn sure so much better.
How do we call
Damn sure so much better.
Fighters, son?
Okay, y'all lost. If Danny Garcia,
That's a resume full of losses.
Great. Danny Garcia can make 140. If he can make 140, then we can talk. But he hasn't done anything at 147. Who's Danny Garcia beat at 147?
Danny Garcia's resume at 140, when he was at 140, is head over heels better than Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford gets anointed because he unified the division that was crowned on the other side by Ndungo.
So who is Danny Garcia? Okay, let's go with what you're saying. Who is Danny Garcia's best win at 140?
I'll tell you a couple wins. Let me go to Fox.
I'm just waiting to hear one. Can I hear one?
He'll say Matisse.
That was his best win.
Matisse.
So that's his best win. At 140, Matisse.
Or Khan. How about Khan?
Give me a second. Oh, Amir Khan. Amir Khan, the guy who never got to at 147.
Okay, here we go. Nate Campbell, Kendall Holt, Eric Morales, Amir Khan, Zab Judah,
Eric Morales.
Wow. Lamont Peterson, Molly
I think Eric Morales was the grandfather when he fought Danny Garcia.
All those guys are the best.
You heard those names. Let's look up Terrence Crawford.
I know he got 4 belts in 140. He got 4 belts in 140.
Yo, belts shit. It depends on who you beat. Belts don't mean shit.
They don't mean. Oh, really?
They don't mean shit.
Okay, so
they don't know. So now when he fucking remembers, they'll go get him.
Okay, who remembers this quote? Errol, I want to fight you. Okay, bud, get a belt at 147 and I'll fight you.
Yep, you're right. Okay, at 140.
You know what belt Crawford should have got at 147? The IBF belt.
Oh, now he got the wrong belt. Oh,
that's what he should have got. He got the IBF belt. Now he got let's talk about it. When Terrence Crawford decided to move up to 147, he could have chose any sanctioning body to fight for as the undisputed champion. He decided to fight. Yes, he could have. First of all, when Terrence let me say something. When Terrence Crawford moved up to 147, the number 1 contender for the IBF belt was vacant. The number 2 contender spot was also vacant. The number 3 spot was Carlos Ocampo. Are you telling me that when Terrence Crawford was going to move up to 147, the IBF would have put him behind number 3, Carlos Ocampo? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Like we don't know the boxing business?
There was only one.
Why would you fight? Can y'all admit that Danny Garcia's why would he fight Crawford? Why would he fight Ocampo for no belt when he could beat Jeff Horn to get a belt?
Because if he would have hold on. If he would have Ocampo, he would have had that like Spence next.
Matthew, come on. Are you being serious?
Like he went the path of least resistance, and now he's crying years later. I don't want to hear it.
He fought the champion. He fought the guy who beat Manny Pacquiao.
Oh my God! So now Jeff Horn really beat Manny Pacquiao. Now this is so now we're gonna be.
He's the one with the WBO belt.
Now we're gonna put
the one with the WBO belt.
Hey, did Victor Poster really knock out Lucas Matisse?
Absolutely.
Did Victor Poster really knock out Lucas Matisse, or that was fake?
Absolutely, that happened.
And Terrence, I think Crawford dominated Postol, didn't he?
Yeah,
Postol was okay.
Can y'all have some
Crawford dominated him. He dominated him.
I'm telling you who it is, Victor Poster.
Yeah, he did. He just brought up some guys.
Between Terrence Crawford and Danny Garcia, who has a better resume?
90 seconds.
Let's get a spot.
I don't care. Come on. I don't care. They're not applying for the job, so I don't care. I just know who
Hey. Yo.
So they're not applying for the job. You refill Danny Garcia for him doing way more in light and super lightweight than we do Terrence Crawford. No. Because it doesn't work better.
Hey, no, real quick though, we only had like about a minute left, and Steve Nelson had to, step out. So I thank him very much for, being a part of the show. If anyone else wants to call in, right now it's 347-237-5539. That's 347-237-5539. As far as like this conversation with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, like I said, both of them know how big the fight is going to be. So they're going to see if they can set up this fight to be for, I feel, the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. So with that being said, it's going to be a little bit of a time before that fight happens because one, that fight with Danny Garcia, that was originally planned to be Spencer's next fight before his accident. So they were supposed to fight in January of this year. So I think that kind of that promise is still out there for Danny Garcia. So Errol Spence is going to have that fight with Danny Garcia, and then after that, we'll see what he does next. Most likely, it'll be against Manny Pacquiao. And then after that, you'll have the fight between Spence and Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship. That is pretty much at the overtime session of the show. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I would want to go through. I did say that this is basically the 5th anniversary of this podcast. And you have the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club talk about, I am the biggest Deontay Wilder hater in the planet. But I just want to take the time out, real quick to thank everyone that has been part of this show over the course of 5 years. Y'all are basically the show for me, man. I just put it out there for y'all to talk boxing and to, give boxers an arena to, talk about what they're doing in the sport. And, while I've, done this podcast for 5 years, it's opened me up to, doing other things as far as covering events and that type of thing. So it's been a real pleasure to, do this for this long, and hopefully I'll be able to do it for another, 5 years or so, long after this, man. So, like I said, I thank, all of y'all for being a part of it. I thank, the guests, like I said, Steve Nelson, who was on here. I've had, previous guests, Jamel Herring, Riddick Bowe, Shannon Briggs, Austin Trout, Gary Russell Jr., Raquel Miller, Tika Hemingway, Gary Antoine Russell. I've had a lot, over the course of, the 5 years or so. So, I mean, it's been, a very, great experience to have this out there, man. Just, wanted y'all quick comments on this here before I move forward. My favorite guest. You know who my favorite guest is? Actually, it's Nate Campbell. It's Nate Campbell. Nate Campbell. Nate Campbell. Not because he wants to fight Clarissa Shields, man, but
Rick Layton, your favorite guest on the show.
Oh, come on, stop it. Stop it.
No, I just want to make sure because we got something special for Boxing Update tomorrow. JR, you got any other groups that you want to give a shout out to as far as Facebook boxing groups?
Well, I mean, Matt said, boxing updates. You have Intelligent Boxing. I did start up, one for the Boxing Source. You do have, others out there, what is it? Like Boxing Junkies, and then also, a few others out there like Boxing Lounge, Boxing Lovers Paradise, Boxing Elite. So there's a good amount, out there, but I just, keep up with Intelligent Boxing, Boxing Updates, the Boxing Source, and, those groups that are out there on Facebook.
That's cool. That's cool. And I appreciate Boxing Update. Matthew, that's you putting that together, man. Congratulations. That's a great job, man. So that's a really good boxing group.
Yeah. But Yeah, but for me, it's just like I said, just getting the name, the sport out there for people to talk about. It's not what they would say, quote unquote niche sport. I mean, this thing is one of the oldest combat sports out there. It's been out for hundreds of years. So, for me to talk about the art of boxing is one thing that I like to do, and having conversations like we've had today with like with Steve Nelson, and the whole conversation about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford is among some of the best out there, and also having like moments like what is it, the like the attendance report for Wilder versus Fury 2, like the update that Matt gives us for the attendance for that. And also another one of my favorite moments was December 8th, 2019, when it was official that Matt lost that bet of a steak dinner Anthony Joshua beat Andy Ruiz Jr. for the unified heavyweight titles. And I got that steak dinner. That was great.
Well, it's like people all the time. Sometimes when don't die, you one time. Thanks for reminding me about basketball, Matthew. I'm recording the last dance. I'm gonna check that out tonight. Yeah, I'm recording that right now too.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
Great.
JR.
Yo.
JR.
Yeah.
Before I get out of here, I came late, so I really want to hear Steven Nelson, talk about his career. I didn't really hear what he had to say. Did he say anything about when he have a title shot coming?
Nah, he was like kind of seeing if he go around his career slowly, see if he has like something coming up when things pick back up here this year, and then just rolling with Bomac as far as like what his next direction is going to be going into 2021. He did say that he would be open to facing the likes of a Callum Smith there for his title, but with him being the current NABO super middleweight champion, that puts him, directly in the rankings for the WBO champ, Billy Joe Saunders. And Billy Joe Saunders don't have that fight with Canelo Alvarez. So, hey, I mean, maybe that's an outside chance that he could fight Billy Joe Saunders, So. Oh yeah, no doubt on that. But yeah, I'm trying to.
5 years. I got to get out of here, but you're gonna see some announcements tomorrow in reference to some boxing things from me tomorrow.
All right, got you, no doubt. Thanks for calling in, Charles.
All right, Jana.
Yep.
All right, everybody. All right.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what else was out there for the course of the past 12 months.
I got something to say.
All right.
How you feel about Deontay Wilder's injury being consistent with somebody who got hit with an open fist, with a closed fist, whatever it's called? His wounds being consistent with that. How you feel about that?
The injury that Deontay Wilder talked about was with his arm. I haven't seen him talk anything about, what happened, as far as like his head is concerned. Because a few weeks ago, he was talking on the, the PBC podcast. And that's the only thing that he mentioned was that he had an arm injury in that fight against Tyson Fury. He didn't say anything else about any other injury.
Okay. All right. How you feel about that, man?
Yeah, president of the Deontay Wilder fan club. How do you feel about that?
Man, watching get inside of that. I
Oh,
want to know is what are your thoughts?
Yo, Patrick, you said you the admin of Boxing Update, right?
Yeah.
That's what messed up. Anybody meet in your group, man, that's cool. I'm gonna join that group. I'm
I
joining
can't
that group.
provide you like that for.
Man, you keep saying this shit, we friends, man. What you mean you can't find me on
I
Facebook?
know. I can't find you. I don't know why. It's like if you don't
My
post
name is Michael. Great.
I know his name. I've only seen him come up once when you wrote this long fight recap.
I write them every time I got a fight. Man.
But I need to know your thoughts on what the UFC did this weekend and would or should it be applied to boxing.
They would lose money, so do they really want to do that when they count in so much of the gate, like helping to pay the fighters?
man, come on, man. You know I don't watch UFC, man. So I don't. I can't let why answer that question.
Hey, I ain't watching either, but I did see Steven F. Spinoza expose them because they made all the fighters and all the reporters, the referees, everybody that was in the facility, they made them all sign contracts that they couldn't disparage UFC as it pertains to the COVID-19 thing and the testing. They weren't allowed to talk about it, and they had to sign away their right to sue in the future if they get sick. Why don't boxing do that? Everyone loves UFC so much.
Well, yeah, like I said, I don't roll with UFC. I guess what was it, Dana White or Zuffer or whatever it is, tried to wash their hands of this whole thing if something else happens or something happens after these fights take place. But I mean, I wonder if the
guys, big names in UFC that fuck weekend.
who's that dude? Ferguson? Yeah. Well, they said like Ferguson was supposed to be the guy to fight Khabib later on down the line, but he ended up getting beat down. So that's the only thing I know about.
I think those guys first probably 300,000 and shit. Yeah. It'd be hard to put the top. I mean, low level boxers. You could probably make some shit happen with them right now.
Yeah.
People being in the crowd.
Yeah. I mean.
But when we get to talking about the champions and shit, it'd be a little bit tough right now.
Yeah, the champions and the higher level guys don't want to do it.
Either there's some states where everything is like going to be like completely open, like Atlanta, Vegas, like everything's supposed to be open in some of those states, right?
Well, Florida's trying to completely open. I mean, Florida is trying to open up barbershops and hair salons on Monday, so I don't know how far that's going to go. They've opened the beaches up, and they said like, hair salons.
They can hold some events in Florida, some boxing events in Florida. Do what they do. They're going back to regular. So,
yeah. But I just think that, with the smaller scale fighters, they should, at least try to, I would have felt like they would try to push them out first. If people are like, clamoring for live, sports action, why not have the, smaller fighters out there and put them out and have them fight and give them a shot to be featured on TV? Because you get them on the B-roll. They don't make it on TV once these fight cards happen on the regular. So why not have them on TV at some capacity now? You don't need a crowd for them because usually when you put them on, they don't have much of a crowd anyway. So why not put them on TV so that people see them and see their talent? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Come on, man. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, goodness, man. But Yeah, that's pretty much what I got, man, for this particular episode. Like I said, I thank all of y'all for calling in for this particular episode. We're gonna get right back at it next week, May 17th, 2020. At the same time, this will be available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify on demand later on. Like I say at the end of every show, point of boxing is to hit and not get hit, not to send and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.